This episode of the podcast has been brought to you by Sweet Cheetah Publicity. Sweet Cheetah is an inclusive, socially conscious PR collective that puts their money where their mouth is. They have a current roster of bands that reads like a greatest hits anthology. Brainiac, Catholic School, Jawbox, The New Amsterdams, Oceans in the Sky. I mean, the list goes on and on. They also do PR for record labels such as A La Carte, Arctic Rodeo, Steadfast, Rad Girlfriend, and so many more. How do they pay it forward? How do they put their money where their mouth is? By generating thousands of dollars in annual charitable donations to the likes of Women in Vinyl, Coalition of Communities of Color, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and many, many more. The man has the receipts. I've seen them. It is real. The artists, labels, and podcasts Sweet Cheetah works with are curated with an eye on working primarily with friends. You could find Sweet Cheetah on all of the social media platforms, be it Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just look for Sweet Cheetah PR and they will be there. He's been Tim, I've been Peter, and Sweet Cheetah has been beautiful.
If I'm the curse to win this, I would. If I could to win this, I would.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast. I am your host, Peter, and I am still here. Tonight on the podcast, I have the pleasure of giving to you a discussion between Dave Gorman, Chuck Youn, and myself. Dave and Chuck are from the ubiquitous Orange Island. Do you remember Orange Island? I sure do. Alternative press had to say about them, while indie rock bands Hum and Sam I Am helped pave the way for the genre, Orange Island had taken those ideas and infused them with new energy. Exclaim magazine, sounding like Drop D Tune Saves the Day or Jawbreaker, the Clinton, Massachusetts quartet fuses gut-quaking East Coast post-hardcore rhythms a la Quicksand, dual guitar interplay, and intelligent and earnest lyrics. All of these things are true, but that's far from all. You can't sum up a band like this with just a few blurbs, and I think the best way for us to really get a sense for who they were and are, and, make sense of this incredible, very, as they'd said, earnest and powerful music, is by getting to know the personalities behind the creation of this incredible, incredible music. I'm sure you hear what's happening behind me right now, and if you never heard Orange Island, get out there. It's not going to be a massive undertaking to just, go stream it somewhere, man. We all stream music. You don't got to go and buy the record or the cassette if you don't have to. At least at first. But once you are bitten by this bug, I'm certain you're going to want to own the physical audio document of these incredible records by these incredible human beings. Normally, at this point in the podcast, I am hawking my wares. I am trying to sell you on sharing my content or liking or subscribing or what. Listen, man, if you're not doing it by now, you're probably not fucking gonna. But if you still want to, just go to my Instagram. Go to the Book of Very, Very Bad Things at Instagram.com. Go to my Facebook, same kind of thing. Just follow me, check out what I'm doing. But for now, I have Dave and Chuck, Orange Island, on the Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast.
Hello, hello?
Hello.
Yeah!
Yeah, you're in outer space. What's going on?
I am in fucking outer space is right.
That's wonderful.
I was
I wish.
about some 1975 trying to get myself in the vibe.
That's a pretty interesting background you got going on there.
Dude, listen, I'm here for all of this. 44-year-old Dave Gorman as a farmer. This is like my bedtime. So I'm like amping myself up.
I understand. I've been up since 4:30 this morning. You know, I wish I were a farmer. I'm a plumber.
No, dude. I wish I was a fucking plumber. Well, no, I don't. But I wish I was getting your paycheck doing my job.
Yeah.
If that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I
Not that I'm trying to say that, you know, whatever, but like trades, man, trades are where it's at.
Yeah, I threw my English degree away. And
fuck yeah.
You know, became a union plumber like my dad because that's where the money was.
Damn, dude. Not only is it where the money's at, but it's also like it's interesting and fun, and it's always a new experience. You're never in the same fucking place. Like, I don't know. That's what life is for me. Like, I want experience in different settings, and I don't know, just mix it up. Like, I don't know how people live the same old day to day. I know that's a certain personality type, and I get that there are people that need to live that way, and I'm so happy that people can live that way. Right. But fuck, man, I can't do that. I need like constant shift, and you know, we're in this season, we're in that season, we're in the next season, we're doing this, we're doing that. You know, in the grand scheme of farming, obviously a year is a loop, but the day to day is never the same.
So what type of farming are you doing?
I actually work on a flower farm, which is really wild and amazing. I after the band ended, not to get too crazy in depth now, but after the band ended, I was probably the one of the three of us, me and Chuck and Bren, who were the three sort of founders of Orange Island. Once it ended, I wasn't really ready for it to end.
Yeah,
I was less ready, I guess, let's say, than the other two were. And so I had a hard time processing it for a couple of few years really. And I was a little lost and in between and really unsure of what I was doing and what to do next and blah, 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 blah. I ended up finding my way to an apple and peach orchard. We also grew vegetables and some various, you know, like blueberries, apricots, other stuff like that, but mostly apple and peaches and some vegetables. It was a huge like reset moment for me, not only from music, but also for me personally. I was going through a divorce at the time, which was actually very amicable. And my ex-wife and I are very good friends to this day. But I needed that time to like process through that shit. So like pruning apple trees in December, January, and February by myself in a fucking quiet, peaceful, snow-covered orchard was a beautiful thing.
I can imagine.
But I learned a lot there too. Like I really cut my teeth there. I really learned a lot about farming and like just the day-to-day, how it works, what you need to know, what you need to do. Also just learning the physical toll. Like it's you know, anybody that's ever farmed for any real time before, unless it's been a very lucky situation, it's so physically demanding. It doesn't matter what you're farming. It's all physically demanding in some way, shape, or form. So I learned a lot there. And then I got into cannabis for about 3.5, 4 years in Massachusetts, which I really thought was kind of going to be my like way to take all of my experiences as a young adult and then turning into like a mid-adult and like channel it into something where I thought I could make a decent living. Yeah. And actually do something cool. The sad thing is Massachusetts fucked up legal cannabis very quickly. They threw it all to rich white dudes, and they didn't really treat it the way it should have been treated. So, as you would imagine, a bunch of rich white dudes just were like, "This is the way it's going to be. This is what I want. If you're not on board, then fuck you. Get out of here. I don't want you to be here." Yep. So the majority of the people that want to work in the industry are like early to mid 20s. Well, I shouldn't say the majority, but a lot of people are from that previous, from like the next generation. and I was like the buffer between like their generation and the owner, and it was so fucked up because I was like, I see both sides. Even I identified a lot more with the younger generation in terms of mindset.
Yeah.
But I also knew what the owner and that generation was about. And I tried so hard to like keep everybody happy. And then the pandemic hit and it just got so fucked up, man. Got so fucked up and yeah, I couldn't do it anymore. Long story short, our dispensary didn't contact trace properly because the owner didn't want to, because he didn't want to lose business. He didn't want to close. He didn't want to reduce hours. He didn't want to close the business. So we ended up having like this crazy outbreak in December 2020, like right around Delta hitting hard. 24 of our 42-person staff got fucking COVID because of this asshole.
Oh my God.
Myself included. And he basically fired me 3 days before Christmas because I kind of forced him to do it. And yeah, it's a whole story, dude. Like he fired me in my office and I walked out with him following me, and our store was supposed to be open for like 10 minutes already. And everyone's like freaking out, like, Dave, what's going on? And I was like, don't ask me. I don't fucking work here anymore. And so the crazy thing was 3 people walked out with me on the spot. And then they told like everybody outside, because this was like, you know, this is Massachusetts 2020, recreational cannabis was just kind of getting going. Yeah. So we had a line wrapped around our whole building waiting to get inside 3 days before Christmas. And the 3 coworkers of mine that walked out with me were like, don't fucking go in there. It's a terrible place. Everybody's sick. They don't care about you. They don't care about us. I was like, fuck yeah, let's get it. Long story short, they had to close the business for like 3 months. They let the whole staff go. They hired a whole new staff. And you know, they fucked up. And for me, it took me like 5 or 6 months to get back on my feet. As a lifelong asthmatic, COVID just really hit me hard. Yeah. It was kind of like, I don't know if you ever had mono.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It was like mono times 1,000. So it was like really like springtime before I finally was like able to like get up and out of my house. And I went to my friend's farm to buy some flowers for my family and talked to them for like an hour and a half, told them about the shit that I had been through. And they were like, Dave, you should just come work here. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. So
that's awesome.
A year and a half later, I'm still there, and it's the best thing I could have ever fucking done.
And Chuck is here with us.
Chuck!
David, Peter, what's
Hello,
up?
sir.
I'm in outer space. Where are you?
Yeah, geez, I'm in my son's room, buddy.
I mean, that's fair.
Can you guys hear me okay? Sorry, my mic wasn't working.
Absolutely.
All
You
right,
sound like
go.
a fucking tinny champ. Can I just do this real quick?
Yeah, why not? Plug it.
Can I just do this?
Yeah,
Can you see that,
it.
Peter?
I sure can. So
that's how used that is. It's already rubbing off.
The Orange Island beer mug.
Oh yeah.
Wow, you guys are really you're merchandising.
Oh yeah. Princess Bride?
No, that's Spaceballs. Spaceballs, the flamethrower.
God, why did I fuck that up? It's because I'm half asleep. Sorry.
Hey, you're a farmer. It's to be expected.
That's bullshit excuse. You guys are parents.
Yeah, we're parents. We're parents.
You guys have a much better excuse than I do.
I don't know. Listen, it's all relative.
That's true.
You can have a turtle, and it's just like having a kid if you never had a kid.
Or a ferret.
Right?
Whatever.
Yeah. But I guess to get into like the business of the episode, which I'm so unbusinesslike, it's ridiculous. I'm an asshole. But there's a massive gap. So 2005 was when the second and final Orange Island full length came out, correct?
Timeline would be so
2002. I'm sorry, the EP was 2005.
Yeah, the Rise EP was early 2005 when that hit, and we were as a normal working touring band, we were done at that point. So with Casey, we did Shape of Calling, the first EP, and then Everything You Thought You Knew was our first full length with Casey, and then we did which is the reissue on Triple Crown, and then we went on to the Rise EP eventually. So it was 4 releases over the time frame of the band.
So,
and with the Triple Crown full length, it was self-titled at the time.
mm-hmm.
A lot of it was, I think, and I'm sure Chuck will chime in too, but a lot of it was because it really felt like we were finally Orange Island, so to speak. Like we had finally found our sound, and it made a lot of sense for that to be a self-titled album. But for this release, it's called One Night Stay, which also I'm sure Chuck will expound upon. But yeah, that's sort of the quick and dirty.
And to me, this one is the most I don't want to call it brutal, because it's not like a thrashy hardcore record, but there are points on this album that are thrashy and very hardcore sounding. Vocally not so, but musically it is an angry fucking record. More angry, I think, than anything else you guys had done. Can you kind of speak to that? I'd always wondered this, like why this one seemed so like vicious, comparatively speaking.
That's a good question. I think we always had that in us, and we were maybe like exercising some poppier demons on the road to get there. But I think from a music standpoint, the guitar player who wrote, all of the music, he liked heavier stuff. I think a lot of that too was maybe insecurity. We kind of wanted to be badasses more than I think we really were, to be honest. So I think for this record, we made a conscious decision. I remember kind of being like, no acoustic guitars, no, piano stuff. It's just going to be, loud and that kind of stuff. But I think, vocally, we always wanted it to have melody and for it to be as palatable as possible, so we weren't turning off any audiences or anything like that. We certainly didn't want to be like a screamy sort of thrash band or anything like that. We wanted to be a rock band. And I think, we were probably pretty fucking pissed at, we're talking probably 21, 22 years old. And that kind of purgatory period between being a kid and being an adult, and things not lining up maybe the way you thought they would or anything like that. So I mean, I like that you think it's fucking angry and brutal. Like that makes me really happy, to be honest.
And well, yeah, especially after the first 2 releases, which we were obviously just, I shouldn't say obviously, because anyone listening to this probably wouldn't know this, but we were finding our way to a sound. I think is the most important thing. Was the first EP, it was like, holy shit, someone will put our songs out, and we have to write songs. And then, of course, when you're not like trained musicians and you just pick up instruments and start playing them because music motivates you so deeply that you just feel the need to play music. So you just, I don't know, I think you choose whatever feels right for you. I know, like in Chuck's case, his dad played the drums. So, I don't want to speak for Chuck, but I'm sure that was an easy place for him to go. And it's like the idea of thinking about who you are as a musician before you've ever even played music is a weird thing to think about, but I feel like for most humans it's true, right? Like
it's predestined. I'm the son of a drummer as well, a jazz drummer, in fact. I always had the predilection to be a bass player. I didn't carry that throughout the entirety of my music career. I mostly was the vocalist of every band I was in, but I started with the bass and the piano because Dad was a musician. Yeah. Grandpa was a musician. I think it is a part of who you are intrinsically.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I think for us, definitely in the beginning, it was like there was such a deep I don't know, like soul driven drive to make music and create music with your friends and people that you care about and you love, and you have this love of similar styles of music together. But then when you get in a room, you don't know what is going to come out, right? And you don't even know, in our case, we didn't even know what the fuck we were doing. So the easiest thing to do is play like fast songs and just try to like get through them as quickly as we can, have some fun like breakdowns and moments, coming through, of course, that time frame of the mid to late 90s and into the early 2000s, where, you know, music was so all over the place. You were going from like grunge was popular, of course, popular, like, you know, Pearl Jam in Seattle and Nirvana and all that stuff. And then it went into, you know, NSYNC and fucking Backstreet Boys and all this crazy shit in terms of like popular music. But on the, you know, the indie side of things, of course, it's like Nirvana was also popular on that side, but then that shifts to like Sunny Day Real Estate and whatever, hot water music and all these different things, and you're trying to figure out like what you like and what you want to play, and but then you realize like what your restraints are for your ability to play as kids and as untrained musicians. And so it was, I think for us, it was just about like, let's just let's see what happens. And then you end up playing like these really fast, like sort of almost like pop punk kind of sounding songs, because it's just the easiest thing to do when you don't really know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So it took us a while to really hone in what our sound should be, what we wanted it to be, and who we were going to be as a band. And for me in those early days, as much as I enjoyed all of it, because it was really fun, just working through all of that, it definitely, to me, wasn't until we got to this album that, you know, the vinyl ultimately is released on, where it felt like we were in the pocket, where it was, this is what we want to make, this is what Orange Island is heading towards, and this is, you know, our first sort of, I don't know, I feel like for me, our first real like step towards being a band.
And like, if you could kind of take me back to where you were at before, where you're talking about, you know, being young musicians, working it out. What were you into? Where was your head at? Like when this process of discovery is going on, when you're first wanting to play music, what was that first moment, that first band, that first song that said to you, okay, I want to fucking play now, you know, that really instilled that in you?
I think all the time about a very specific moment, and it's real quick and real simple. I discovered this amazing music store that now has become a very different thing years and years later, but Newbury Comics. I went into Newbury Comics and I made a couple of friends in the store that I went into initially. And I remember going in, it was my second time going into Newbury Comics. And just real quick, the first time I went in, it was like, dude, it's like, it was like finding the promised land. I was like, holy shit, here's a place that is not only playing music in the store that's really fucking cool, and it's loud enough that it like is louder than it should be, but not so loud that it's obnoxious. But you're like, you're in the right place. And then you look around and you see, I don't know, fucking like Misfits posters on the wall and whatever is going on in the world right now. And there's imports and you're looking at stuff and you're like, how does this even exist in the world? My second time going into Newbury Comics as a 17-year-old, my now new friend who I had met there turned me on to Jimmy Eat World, Static Prevails. And I left the store with that CD and I put it in my CD my CD player in my car, and I drove home listening to it and was just floored by track after track after track. And by the time I got to the last track, I was basically back in town, back home in Clinton, and I was just like somewhere between like sobbing and ecstatic, because this music was moving me in a way that music had never moved me before. And music had moved me and listening to great music for many years as a young kid, and being lucky to have been, I don't know, my dad definitely turned me on to a lot of great music as a kid, but this was the first time I had discovered something. And granted, someone told me about it, but I felt like this was mine. This was like a special thing. And if I don't know if I have this right or not, and Chuck will probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I went right to Chuck and picked him up, and we got in my car and I played Static, and we just drove around and listened to Static Prevails, and we're like blown away by what we were listening to. And that to me was like the first moment of realizing what kind of music I would want to make personally.
For me, we're talking 8th grade. There was a band in our town, Clinton, older kids. So it was like sort of legendary without even having to hear, like not even hearing a note. It was already like legendary. And we were like skater kids in the 8th grade. And there was a show going on in town. And we thought shows were always either 18 plus or 21 plus or whatever. And one of our little skater punk friends came up and was like, I got into the show, and showed his little X or whatever. And we said, no fucking way. So we skated down there, and, it was right next to like a video store or whatever. And I went in there and I had no idea, my concerts were Def Leppard and maybe Bush and stuff like that. So I just walked into this like towny bar, and it was packed, and it was sort of insane. And I stood on a chair and just sort of took it all in. And that was the blueprint for me, because that was the first time it was sort of tangible. Like, I don't know how you become a Bush. I don't know how you become a Def Leppard. Like, I have no idea how that happens. But this, I could sort of see a through line too. Like, oh shit, I can do that. Like, I can just go down to a towny bar and like play loud and have people freak out. So that's what it was for me. And we sort of immediately started. There was like 2 or 3 bands in 8th grade. We were all sort of mix and match. Like the bass player, I was in this band called Ice Cream Headache, we called ourselves. And really we just played in my parents' basement, and like the quote unquote singer was just screaming Cookie Monster's dead, and he broke one of my parents' glass tables and shit, and we'd steal my dad's beers and stuff like that. So I was in Ice Cream Headache. 2 of the other members were in like another band, and then other members. So it was like we were jigsawed around. And Cast Iron Hike, knowing that we were like their bread and butter, was like, yo, the first band that can come up with a 5-song set or whatever can open when we play the gym. So it was like this huge rush. Ice Cream Headache crumbled under the pressure. Some other bands did, and then a super group fucking formed, and they were able to play the show, and then they started playing shows. So I was playing, I was sort of playing music since like 7th grade or 6th grade. I was playing the drums, and then, that shitty band in the 8th grade. And then that turned into sort of jamming with people. And that's when my cousin, Brendan, came in, who was the guitar player. So I just always thought this is what I was going to do. I'm going to play music. And then, tastes definitely started evolving, I would say. And Dave played a big role in that with, finding new music and making mixtapes. And so that became our deal. So when I was jamming with my cousin on whatever Friday nights, I was riding around the streets with Dave on Saturday nights, listening to music. So I just envisioned him being sort of a part of it. And it took, a little bit like, hey, we're starting to write some songs. I hope you will maybe sing and whatever. And I'm playing him shitty recordings that we plus, record on a boombox. I'm like, fucking check this out. And it's, he's like, okay, cool. Yeah, I guess I'll be a singer. And I was like, no fucking way, until we
but
got
honestly,
a genuine recording.
I gotta jump in here though, because like, I'll never forget getting a phone call from Chuck, and he was like, I think we have a real song, and I really want you to hear it. And I just got a 4-track. This was literally like this, like the size of like a fucking laptop these days.
Fox Tech?
this little, I think it was a Tascam,
Oh,
maybe.
Tascam.
Yeah.
Tascam, yeah.
This, just very rudimental 4-track, and he got it either for Christmas or it was somewhere. It was definitely right around Christmas time, because he called me, and I remember coming over to his house, to his parents' house, and going down in the basement and listening to what they had recorded. And I knew it was important, because, or I knew he was like proud of it, because I know he wouldn't have called me and been like, come listen to this, if it didn't matter. And I remember getting there and going down in the basement and like hanging out for a bit, like seeing his dad and just shooting the shit and doing whatever, and then listening to what they had recorded. And I was like, holy shit, this is fucking great. And as someone who, me in this situation, who has like no skill as a vocalist other than I've just loved music in my heart and soul from the second I remember listening to good music, and spending countless hours with music, learning lyrics, learning melodies, memorizing them in my head, not realizing that I was probably in some weird fucked up way training myself to be a vocalist, which I probably still was never a great vocalist in any way, shape, or form. But in this moment, it all made sense. It was very simple and it was easy. And in this one small moment, we created this little snippet of a song. And, not to like get too deep into it, but it's like, you said Merry Christmas, like this moment of this song, of this thing that Chuck and Bren had written, and Chuck was caring enough and willing enough to bring me into it and say, like, I want you to hear it, and I want you to sing on it, and I want you to be a part of it. And I just remember that moment so vividly, and the feeling of listening to what they created, and as small and as simple as it was in that moment, it felt so fucking amazing and overwhelming to me. And for some strange reason, a vocal melody hit me, and I'm sure I was probably stealing or borrowing from somebody, like we all do.
Yeah.
But whatever came out, and we recorded it on that little 4-track. And I still to this day think of it as like one of my favorite moments of all time, because if that never happened, then none of this would have ever happened. And
it's like you're let in on a secret, right?
Yeah, totally.
Because before then, like, you enjoy listening to music, but even though you could play an instrument, even like the mechanics of it are still kind of lost on you until that 4-track's in your hands. And
I think there's also something about, like, for us as sort of untrained musicians, if you will, and I use musicians loosely, as untrained people playing music. The idea, when you're young, of course, like, you just think you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? Like, I want to do this, we're going to do it. I want to do this, I'm going to do it. Like, we're going to make it happen. But I still, in a lot of ways, I'm shocked, I guess, that it was as easy as it was in the moment for it to just I hate to use this word, but organically just happened. Yeah. And then that, just led to jamming and practicing in Chuck's parents' basement, and God bless them for putting up with us for so long. And then it went, obviously it went from there, and I don't want to get too deep into the weeds in that, but I feel like that moment is so crucial and so important, at least for me personally. Again, it wasn't just the ease of the moment of like recording something. It was also just being asked to be a part of something when you don't really think it's a big deal, because it's something so small and simple in that moment, but it just meant the world to me.
Yeah, it's very transformative to like finally find something that feels like it's your place.
Yeah.
Like I know people who are my age who haven't had that moment yet. 46-year-old men wandering the earth. You know what I mean? Like, just work a day, work week, getting by to get by, and that's for the sake of it. But to actually find something and glean purpose from it, that's major.
Yeah.
We may actually take that for granted as creative people, as musicians, because I don't think everyone gets that. And
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, I was always, as the like weeks and months went on, I remember thinking to myself, I was like floored at not only because Chuck was becoming one of my best friends at this time in life, just as a person, but I didn't realize how good of a drummer he was. I didn't realize his ability to turn a phrase like with words and ultimately lyrics, you know, down the road. And then his cousin Brendan, like I knew Brendan through his older siblings. Like I knew that he existed, I guess is the better way to say it. But it was only at this point that we started to get to know each other and become friends, and watching his growth from like that first day of being in Chuck's basement to even just a few months later. I mean, he just kept getting better and better and better, and it was just leaps and bounds. And his ability to write these unreal killer fucking rock riffs, it was just like Chuck would call me and be like, yo, Bren just recorded another sick fucking demo, I'm gonna like come pick me up and let's listen to it. It was just, those moments were, God, like the best. They were the best moments. Whenever he would call me and be like, you need to listen to this. Let's listen to this. Let's work on lyrics, or let's work on melodies. Like let's whatever. Just here it is. Like let's hear another thing that he just created. It was special. It was really fucking amazing to be a part of.
And
I think.
Go
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think for me too, like finding your people sort of early, like finding people that value the same things that you do. Like for me, it was, I'm in this world, I found my people, and now it was like a conversation that was going on that they let me in on, almost like you open a door and you're involved in this conversation. I was like, how do I now like have a voice in this though too? What it's doing for me, like other people's music is transforming me. How do I make things that maybe can carry that on and transform other people? And I feel like you nailed it. I'm not crying. My voice keeps cracking because I'm sick. But
people have
He's
cried.
lying.
People
He's
have
lying.
cried on here
We
before.
cry all the
Yeah.
time, bro.
yeah, I just want to. I don't know why I had a. Hey, everybody at home, I'm not
guarantee I'll
crying.
cry at some point.
Yeah. But I think you nailed it with like purpose. It just felt like that was sort of the purpose, and like I couldn't fucking sleep. You know what I mean? Like I was just constantly trying to cook stuff up, and it was a very fruitful time of, Bren definitely trying to get better in his craft, me trying to get better in my craft. I was lucky where Bren felt like he needed me when he probably really didn't, but he, like, when you make something yourself, you can't hear it with the ears that you'd need to, you know what I mean? So he would play stuff and record it and kind of come to me going like, I don't know, maybe it's something. And I would listen and go, oh shit. Okay. Yeah, no, this part rules, and this part, and so then trying to get better at just like figuring out what part is what, and then listening to songs in a different way, cutting them up in your head. Like, oh, I remember just listening to songs and going, wait, what the hell is that? How do I do that? You know what I mean? Like learning what a fucking bridge is, It
was like our fucked up version of pre-production. Like,
oh yeah, big time. And pre-production,
like rudimentary pre-production.
my jam. I fucking love pre-production. And this record that we're putting out, like that was the first time we really dedicated a lot of time to pre-production, where we really were putting things under a microscope, had sort of the time and sort of the resources to do that. And I think that's why it was so important. And, to go back to you saying it's an angry record, it's brutal and that kind of stuff. And, and us kind of talking about, yeah, that's what we wanted to do. The next record we did, that Rise EP, is not brutal and not fucking angry, so it's like, okay, how is that only a year later and you're not angry? And the answer to that is we had gotten it out of us. We had like defined ourselves, And that like freed up a whole bunch of creative stuff. We didn't feel that pressure anymore. So going in to do that Rise EP, it was like, yeah, break out the acoustic guitar, break out a slide guitar. Like, who gives a shit, you know? So it all that stuff was there. But once we finally kind of nailed it, then it was, we could go on to different things and evolve, you know, and it's too bad that we couldn't do more or turn that into something, or who knows what would have happened if we sort of stuck to it.
You know, it's funny. I think all the time about how, and not even, this obviously isn't just about a band thing or a musician thing. People finding their comfort zone or their stride when you're in a group or a collective, right? Whether it's 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 20 people. Usually it's varying times, right? Like, so-and-so gets comfortable at this point, so-and-so is comfortable here, so-and-so is like timing, when you were brought into the thing, when you started in the thing, how much involvement you have in the thing, whatever it is, right? I think it's probably rare for, at least in our case, a band where everybody really just like falls into the right space all at the same time. And I may be revisiting history in a way that I'm not fully remembering it for everybody else. But I know for me, recording the full length for Triple Crown, which is the re-release, for Casey, One Night Stay, was the first time that I was on the precipice of feeling like I might be able to become a vocalist that when I hear our songs recorded, I don't cringe. And I genuinely mean that. And I'm not saying that in a way where I'm like looking for like a pat on the back. Like, it's just the truth, right? Everything we had recorded previous to that, I never felt comfortable with. Sadly, the only thing I probably ever felt comfortable with was a cover that we recorded. And that's just because I knew the melody and I knew the lyrics and I knew everything so well that it just was easy.
Yeah.
So anyways, we were lucky in recording this album where we had a little bit of a budget for the very first time. And it allowed me and afforded me the opportunity to go and get some vocal lessons from a vocal instructor who has worked with some insane artists. And I'm not going to name drop, but the point of it is,
I remember know who you're talking about, actually. Female?
No, I was actually a guy.
Oh, okay.
New York City. He's worked with whatever, Beyonce, Elton John, Justin Timberlake, yada, 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 forever and ever and ever. Like, stupid amount of people. I remember walking into his room feeling super intimidated. And the second we started speaking, he just said, listen, I'm not going to teach you to become a great singer. I'm going to teach you how to become the best rock singer that you can be. Yeah. And I was like, everything inside of me that was built up and anxious and like holding on to all the stress, like I'm in a place I don't belong in. And I walk in this fucking room and it's like floor to ceiling signed autographed photos. And I'm like, oh, there's Elton John. Oh, there's fucking Steven Tyler. Oh, there's Justin Timberlake. Oh, there's Lady Gaga. Oh, there's Beyonce. Like, oh yeah, I belong here. That makes tons of sense, right? But he walks in the room and he was just like, I'm not going to teach you anything that you don't need to know. I'm going to teach you what you need to know to be the best you can be. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, okay, I think I can get behind that. And it took me a little time to get comfortable, but once I figured it out and once I really just like let it go and learn from him, I was like, shit, all right. It definitely unlocked something for me on that piece of it. And then I feel like I really was able to carry that forward into the recording, the rest of the recording process of that record. But the truth is I still felt like a little in between at times on the recording of that album. Like when I listen back to it, there's some takes where I'm like, oh shit. Like if I could do that again, if I could have just done that one more time.
We all do that.
I know. But it was just that like in between phase. But all of this is to say that like not to harp on the last recording, but once we got to that last session we did, which was that Rise EP, dude, I don't know why, but I had one day to do 5 songs of vocal takes, which is really absurd in a lot of ways.
Astronomical.
I just was like, let's do this. I got this. Let's fucking go. I don't know. I just felt confidence for the first time in my ability to be the singer of our band. And it was really freeing and really fucking beautiful. And man, it felt great. And I think about that a lot, and how like special that moment was for me, and how special that recording was, because it just came out of nowhere. Like the opportunity to record those songs, it wasn't like a long scheduled thing. It was like Matt Squire being like, hey, I have some time. And we were like, okay, let's do it. Let's get some songs down, because we're writing stuff and we're going to make another record at some point, of course. So like blah, 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 blah. And he was like, I have this window, and we just showed up. And Chuck, go. Sorry. I may be misremembering.
Yeah, just a little bit. Let me clarify a little bit. It was supposed to be demos that we already had recorded. So Rise reached out and was like, there's unreleased demos, can we put them out? And I was like, yes. And then we had 2 tracks from the full-length session that had drums and bass that we never finished with the guitars or whatever. So they were like, oh, do you have anything else? I was like, maybe we can get some time to like finish these 2 songs, right? Because I think we had maybe a fucking weekend, right? So I called Squire and I said, hey,
it was literally 3 days. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went down there just to add some guitars to drum and bass tracks that already existed, and maybe do one more song. And that was it. So I drove down there going like, I'm going to play drums on one song. We're going to like do a cover of an old song, and that'll be it. And we can do that in 3 days and get the fuck out of there. We get down there.
Oh, because we were going to try to do stand up, right? Like
No, we were going to do soap opera.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Soap opera. Yeah. My bad. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, yeah, we can do that. And I was stressed as fuck already just going down. Like, do we have enough time and all that kind of stuff? We get down there and Squire goes, I don't think we should use those demos. And Bren goes, yeah, I don't want to use those demos either. I go, well, what the fuck are we going to do? And then it was like, okay, well, now we got to record, we've sort of promised them 5 songs. So now we got to do new stuff. And Squire's like, yeah, let's not use the drum and bass takes from the recording either. I'm like, fucking dude, you're killing me. So we went and we re-recorded those drum and bass tracks. Then we did like a cover of one of our songs. So we had 3, and I didn't know where the other 2 were going to come from. And Dave was like, oh, Bren, you have that thing in the van like you played one time. And Bren's like, I have no fucking clue what you're talking about. So Dave
God, that's right.
Yeah, Dave gets a CD, plays it for him, and he goes, oh yeah, I remember that. So we went in and fucked around with that for a little bit until it was a song. And then Bren was like, I got something in my head right now that if I don't get out, it's gonna disappear. And I went, okay, cool. What's it about? He goes, it's acoustic. I went, okay. And he got an acoustic guitar and played a song. And by that time we knew how to play the click tracks and all that kind of stuff. So we didn't have to do it. We weren't married to the way we sort of used to do it, where I would have to do my drum takes and then, get the bass and all that kind of stuff. So he could go in and play it to a click track, and then we could just add shit and take shit out and all that kind of stuff. So then, yeah, we had a whole new thing. And again, it was so freeing. And I think we were so, we had reached a point where we were more confident in like our abilities. I think not just you, Dave, I think sort of everybody. And we had like a system worked out. And I think the cards were stacked against Dave since the beginning, because we didn't know enough to play to our strengths. You know what I mean? Like Dave as a person, as you can probably tell, he's a very earnest, very sweet man. You know what I mean? Very lovely gentleman. And you would think we would, and in the beginning we were playing more sort of slower stuff, more like minerally stuff, like doing the quiet loud kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Dave's voice, sounded good on all that kind of stuff, and he was writing his own melodies and all that kind of stuff, and trying to figure it out. And then almost immediately, it was like we were getting, then we hear Hot Rod Circuit for the first time and Error Type 11, and we're like, oh, let's do stuff like that. Like, they're just getting wasted and having a good time, and that's in our fucking blood.
Chuck, do you remember this song that we wrote for Everything You Thought You Knew that was like such a Quicksand vibe?
Yeah.
And it was like, because we loved Quicksand so fucking much as a collective, and because I know and I'm sure everybody else in our band, I mean, I had a fucking hard on for Walter, and I probably still do, honestly, to this day.
I wore, dude, you see my Gorilla Biscuits?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like,
Quicksand is the quintessential hardcore band. They're the greatest band ever to come out of the scene.
Exactly. Like,
period.
So, I mean, we all were like, just slip and manic compression, whatever, like oozing over what, like Walter has this just cool that just fucking pours out of him.
Yep.
And the fact of the matter is that, like Bren started writing some riffs that felt quicksandy. And so like Chuck and I would talk about like vocals always the whole time that we were in a band. And he would be like, so like, let's try for like a Walter vibe here. And I would try, but like, it was the best I could ever do was like a fucking D-, honestly. Like, and that, I mean, I'm not being like, hard on myself. I'm being real. Like I am not Walter Schreifels. I can't do that. I wanted to try to do that. And I wanted to like find a way to be in that world, but that was not for me. I mean, and the only way to find that out is to try and realize you can't fucking do it. But of course, when you're in it in that moment and you're younger and you're so insecure, and at least for me, super fucking insecure about like everything relating to playing music, writing music, whatever, I just felt inadequate. So fast forwarding to, recording the full length that we're talking about today, and then even into this EP session that Chuck was just talking about, like getting that confidence, or at least a little bit of confidence, and then building on that for me was massive, because it just like I saw what Brendan was writing, I saw what Chuck was writing lyrically and on his drum set, and I wanted to match them. Like I wanted to get to that next level, and it just took me longer, which is what it is. It's fine. I'm totally cool with it. But I feel like I finally got there sort of at the very end, which for me kind of sucks in a lot of ways, but like, just the process of like getting there. But I also, real quick, want to say that I respect the shit out of Chuck and Bren, and whoever else in the incarnations of Orange Island that were a part of the process, because they never, like, nobody ever made me feel less than. It was only me being my harshest critic. I just didn't know how to be a better singer until somebody finally gave me the opportunity to learn how to be a better singer and to show me the way a bit. And then once I like had an understanding of what I needed to do, then I could harp on practicing. And then all of a sudden I was way more fucking comfortable being a singer, and really felt like I really was owning it for the first time. So I just wish I was able to kind of get there sooner, I guess, in the timeline of things. But it is what it is. That's life.
I think too, we're talking about a time where, late 90s, that kind of stuff, everything was like the DIY ethic, and no one felt like a good singer. You know what I mean? You weren't listening to Promise Ring and going like, that dude fucking, yeah, bro.
No.
And you weren't, and like Piebald, and God bless Piebald rules. But one of the funnest parts about listening to Piebald, not live, like obviously seeing them live is super fun because they're fun fucking dudes, but you felt like you could sing those songs just as good as Travis could sing them, because it was almost like purposefully off key. So it was never like, let's find the most talented people on earth. Let's find someone that has the fucking itch
Yeah.
to get it out.
Not everybody could be David Moore from Split Lip and Chamberlain. Now that guy is
Oh,
perfect.
Jesus.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. Don't you dare. How dare you?
Now you're
Yeah.
speaking our language.
Dave was on the show
Oh, was he really?
a couple months
Nice.
ago. Yeah. I love David Moore. Like, my son and I were in one of their music videos off the new record, actually.
Oh,
Fuck
that's
yeah.
amazing.
But while we
You're
were
also
talking-
speaking Brendan's language, who is not here right now, but hopefully he'll listen to this and be like,
Oh, man.
oh shit.
I'll tell you this. I got a phone call. Chamberlain was playing. This was years and years and years ago. And Chamberlain was playing in Cambridge or Boston or somewhere. And people were like, oh, you fucking going? I was like, no, I'm not fucking going. I have a baby and I can't do that. And I got a voicemail. I don't know if I listened to it the next day or what I did, but there was a voicemail and it's Brennan. He goes, hey, someone wants to talk to you. And it's David Moore gets on the phone. He's like, hey, Chuck, wish you could have come to the show or whatever. And then all of a sudden an acoustic guitar starts playing and they start like playing one of the songs. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I asked him about it. And like, I don't know, they ran into him at an alley or they ran into him at a bar.
House of Blues. It was old school House of Blues in Boston.
Yeah.
They saw them in the alleyway and they ended up hanging out in the alleyway playing
Yeah, but Brent had a guitar, so they started playing songs. Yeah, it was silly.
And one of our old touring
90s.
bass players, Jay Broderick, was there too. I was like, what a fucking trip this is.
Yeah, it's funny.
In the 90s, I ran into David. Well, didn't run into him. We were all hanging out at a hardcore show, and he stayed at my buddy's house, and we ended up talking about like poetry all night and trading poetry and stuff. We're just nerdy, but we were talking about Quicksand before, and it just so happened I have a Manic Compression t-shirt sitting right next to me. I was like, oh my God, there it is right there. It's just hilarious.
Yeah, no, I think what's funny about is like we were definitely always trying to, and like we're small town Massachusetts dudes, and we really wanted this New York City swagger, you know, like this hip hop fucking swagger over these
Quicksand, Tribe Called Quest, Orange 9mm, like shove it all together.
Yep.
Music.
Chaka was on the show too, actually, for more.
I listened to that one.
Yeah, that was the first episode. Chuck listened to that and he was like, "You have to listen to that one." I was like, "Oh,
I listened to that one." Yeah. So we were like we were trying to get some of that swagger from dudes that just don't have that swagger. You know, it's like having the dude from The Promise Ring and going like, yeah, now bring some New York City swagger to it. Let's go.
Now spit over
bring
this
some bring some hip hop to this. It's just not going to work. So,
hey, Davey, can you add some bass to that, please?
yeah. and so, you know, we just didn't know what we were doing. And it's like I was trying to write melodies because I was writing more of the words. I wasn't good at melody, so I'm giving Dave shit melodies to sing. I'm giving him words that aren't his words that he's supposed to sell. You know, it definitely, the insecurity was because of all those awful decisions, right? We recorded a Crimson and Clover cover and yeah, it sounded so fucking good. And you would think if we were smart and if I could go back in time, we would go like, oh, you know, we would be a much more interesting band if we went, let's take this sort of energy. Like, what's this tremolo shit we're up to, and this acoustic guitar and these big airy drums, like just trying to throw that together. We had done, you know, like Punk Goes fucking Journey style covers before, like, you know what I mean? We had done that ironic cover shit that everyone was doing, but this was the first time. It was like, let's do a cover and let's like match it. Like, let's match the original. Let's have it be psychedelic. Let's have it do all this stuff. And we're doing it in a room and with people that don't know how to record that music. So it really was just like, I think we do this and maybe we turn this fucking knob and hey, I'll put these mics way the fuck back here. And I remember.
Chuck, do you remember Pepecki showing up with his big muff?
Yeah, Pepecki's got his big muff out. Josh English is there.
Josh English showed up vocals. And gave us backup vocals. Like, it all became so fucking perfect. Like, this funny, random, like, cover song all of a sudden turned into like a beautiful moment that now, again, with time, looking back on it, like I think Chuck is leading to, is like, shit, we should have just taken more I don't know, insight from that moment and carried that to whatever, you know, was coming next. But for me personally, I didn't. It was like a one-off, like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, and it felt
Yeah, it was
comfortable and easy.
It was like a goofy thing that we really
Right.
loved and we liked. But yeah, if I could do it over, I would go like, let's re-record all of these songs like this. What is this fast, like pop punky song gonna sound like if we do it like Tommy James and the Shondells? You know, that would have been a more interesting EP. Now, certainly in 2022, but back then it was like, no, we got to show people that, yeah, no, we're loud and we got all this kind of shit going on and whatever.
Last time I'm gonna do this, look what else was sitting next to me. Tribe Called Quest t-shirt.
Oh shit!
Oh, look
nice.
at this.
Fucked up, right?
Yeah, we knew.
There's some
We got
weird.
it.
There's some weird shit going on.
There's
here.
some juju happening,
We're-
big time.
Chuck and I
Some
are here
big
for
juju.
all that shit. Let's get the energy. Let's flow it.
Now, listen. What is this making you guys feel now, though? Like, you know, does it make you just want to go out and play again? Like, does it really make you want to write a record again? Because I could imagine if I started playing again with guys I played with 20 years ago, something gets re-released. I know I'd be thinking like, fuck, why don't we go do it again in our 40s? And I know it seems ridiculous and it seems impossible to a lot of people, but is that something that kicks around? Like, should we just play again? Should we just do this again?
Doesn't for me.
I knew I was gonna let him go first because I know the answer.
It doesn't for me, only because what started for me was a recognition that I valued being moved, and I didn't know how to articulate it. And when you're 15-year-old dude in small alcoholic sport America, the least vulnerable thing you can do when you realize you value being moved is play loud fucking music with your friends. You know what I'm saying? And that to me ended up just being a gateway. Like, I did all that and I took it very seriously and I thought it was going to be my livelihood. I thought it was going to be my life. And then once it sort of ended, I had the confidence then to just go like, I could sit down and go, what's your favorite part about being in a band? Writing. Okay. And I went to film school. What was your favorite part of film school? Writing. Oh, dumbass, you're just a fucking writer. You know what I mean? And
Also, quick aside, an incredible writer.
David, how dare you?
I love you, Chuck.
Not in front of my friends.
Listen, in front of everyone.
So for me, it sort of stripped that away, and the need to play music in order to do that stripped away. I did do music. The next project that I was involved in was our guitar player, not Bren, did a band with Dave's cousin, and I saw them live. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then their drummer happened to leave, and Joe was like, you wouldn't want to play drums. And I was like, maybe I fucking would. Maybe I just want to be a drummer. Like, because I wasn't just a drummer of Orange Island. I was like, yeah, maybe I just want to be a drummer. And I went and played drums, and like, I couldn't help it. I started like fucking stuff up and remixing songs, and like the dude that was playing bass quit because he got so fired up over it. He was like, Lindsay's gonna, I don't know what she's gonna feel. And I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, there's no chorus. Let's make a chorus. And he's like, I can't fucking do this. And he left. So I made a dude quit. I joined a band, then immediately made a dude quit because I couldn't help it. And we did some.
Chuck can't detach. He can't just be.
I can't.
It's not possible. It is
so
not possible.
I did that, and I was a drummer for that band, and then it was like it wanted to be a serious thing that I just couldn't do, so I stopped. Then a little while after that, me and Bren started just writing songs and recording songs, and my idea for that, I love writing songs. So we would just sit down with an acoustic guitar and we would write acoustic songs, and my idea was like, let's write some songs and then let's like give them to these producers that we know. Let's just sell songs. And I really liked going back to writing to music. And then as things do, especially with Bren, he gets all excited and he goes, I loved them as just acoustic songs. I loved them as just like, yeah, maybe let's play some fucking keyboard on this and whatever. He's like, oh, but think about how sick it would sound with fucking 2 guitars and a fucking bass and whatever. So I was like, I guess. So we became like this bluesy sort of bar band that was writing songs. And the next thing I knew, I was in a fucking band again. And I was like, what? How do I keep ending up here? Like, what am I doing? And that was like the end of it, where then it was like, okay, I just can't. What is happening? Why do I end up in these scenarios where then I'm in this like full-time band somehow? So for me, it doesn't have that sort of like itch, because the stuff that I get fulfillment out of, I can do sort of on my own. And that's a bummer. And I know it's a bummer. Like, I would have fun. And we did some reunion shows, and we did a reunion show, and I couldn't get out of my head when I was playing the drums. So I just like couldn't, it wasn't fun for me. Like, it didn't, and that was when I was like, I don't know what this is, but I don't like it. Like, it just wasn't the fun way. When I would be in my head in the days where we're playing and stuff, it would make me beat the shit out of things and really play it out. And it would be this cathartic thing, which is what we were always sort of going for. It was a selfish endeavor. We were just sort of looking for catharsis every time we played or practiced or whatever. And then this reunion show didn't do that. I was like in my head in a bad way. That's when I went like, I don't think this is sort of for me. With that being said, when we were doing this release and people were sort of going like, yeah, I'd fucking get together again or whatever, then yeah, I was like psyched about it, where it'd be like, yeah, that'd be fun to just show up and revisit. I think I'm in a different headspace now that it would be sort of fun and there's no pretension. Like, we get to be sort of goofy. I was a pretentious fuck back then, I feel like. So it'd be fun to have fun with it again and be sort of, be sort of silly with it. But I just think it's, with 5 dudes with all different shit going on, it's like, once it was like, yeah, maybe you can rent some drums and whatever. I was like, I don't know how to do that. And I don't, and Bren's like, I don't want to carry things. You know what I mean? It's at that point, it's just like, I don't want to have to carry shit, and I don't know how to rent things, and where are we going to be? It's like logistical stuff, where before it was like, yeah, well, let's rent this fucking dungeon and everybody has their shit, and we don't care about carrying things, and we're going to buy 2 bottles of Pinot Grigio on a Friday night and drink them. You know what I mean? It had a shine to it that now, seeing 40, almost 2-year-old English teacher me show up to a dungeon with a bottle of Pinot Grigio, like, let's play some fucking songs where we talk about getting wasted with our friends. That just seems a little out of, pocket a little bit at this point. I think the music holds up. Like, I'm glad we reissued this record, and I'm not embarrassed by it. There's a couple lines in there where I'm like, oh God, like, I probably
as a fellow writer, we all suffer that too.
Yeah, especially, it was different. Think about how many times the word horror was in a bunch of songs that you knew. You got Panic in the Disco, you got Paramore.
Look at Glassjaw. They had a whole album that like would get them canceled now.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually it sort of does. Like they shine over that.
That's a whole pick and choose culture, right? Of like who gets called out, who doesn't. Not that I want to go down that avenue, but like that is a whole thing. Which I think is kind of fucked up. Like, who gets called out, who doesn't. But to talk about the stuff Chuck was just talking about, I just real briefly, I want so badly to be in a room with these 4 other motherfuckers who I love, to just be in a room together. Like, no expectations, no playing Orange Island songs, no playing any songs, no whatever for a reason. Like, I just want to be with the people I love as often as I can. So for me, the idea of us getting back together to like play music, I was always on board for it, because I just wanted to be with my friends. And the idea of whether it was rehashing music we've already written and just playing it together, or potentially creating something new, or potentially just fucking, you know how it is when you're in a, I mean, anybody who's ever played music in a room together with their friends before knows what I'm talking about. Like, you're in the room, the door is shut, and the amps are on, and there's this warm, oozing feeling of joy that just like sifts up from the ground, that like low bass rumble, and then you hear the different tones of the amps just doing their thing, and then you're fucking around on the drums, and you're whatever it is, like that shit means so much to me, and I miss it so much. I don't miss the day-to-day rehearsing to be the best band you can be for tour aspects of practice. I miss getting in the room with my best friends and just creating, or just playing and feeling that, like the feel that music and your amps just like, it like grounds you, and then you feel the vibration like through your feet and up in your body. Like, I don't know, man, like I miss that a lot. And if I'm gonna do that again, I can't imagine doing it with anybody else other than the people I've done it with before, because they're my best friends. And I just like the idea of just being together and creating something, or fucking around, or just laughing with each other, is like, I'm here for all of that.
So when the idea comes up, this gets presented to you that they want to reissue this. Like, how does that come about?
Casey and I had talked about vinyl reissues for years. God, I mean, honestly, like, so Casey ended the label, and then I mean, his like time frame, or his whatever, his story is like, label ended in a shitty way because of Napster hit. It fucked over all small independent labels across the fucking world. Casey got certainly swallowed up in that bullshit. He owed people money. Everything was fucked up. He settled everything. He moved back home with his mom for a little while, got his shit in check, and then he went and hiked the Appalachian Trail. Hiked it, whole thing. Crazy shit, right? Like, that's not a small feat. Became a park ranger, went on and did all this crazy shit. Lived his life, did his thing, and then circled back, I would say a year or so before the pandemic really settled in for all of us. He had reached out to me and was like, hey, what would you think about doing this? And I was like, well, I think you already know, but obviously I'm on board. I'll talk to Brendan and Chuck, but I was like, I assume you're reaching out to me because we need to reach out to the powers that be to get the rights for that record. And he was like, well, yeah. So I did my part on that side. And it took some time, took some conversations, some digging, yada, yada, yada. And then it all finally kind of became realistic at the beginning or early 2020. And then, of course, we were at the beginning of the pandemic. And I remember having a conversation with Casey. I want to say it was March 2020, April. And he was like, okay, we have everything we need from that side. So now it's just, okay, well, what do we want to do? Like, what do we want to do from an artistic standpoint? And I was just like, well, obviously, we have to rope. I don't know how many conversations, Chuck, he had with you at this point, but I was like, of course, Chuck needs to be part of this. Brent needs to be part of this. Joe should be part. Like, we all need. This is us. Like, if we're gonna do this and make it this like really special, cool thing, then everybody needs to be on board. Everybody needs to be involved. Let's make it fucking amazing. Like, let's do it if we're gonna do it. So just, I guess in the beginning for me, it was just kind of the logistics of getting the freedom to be able to do it. And once I had gotten that green light and passed that on to Casey, then it became, okay, well, where can we go with this? And that's, I'm sure, Chuck, you can probably speak to that. Like, that's in a lot of ways, I would say, where Chuck kind of picked up and was like talking about artwork with Casey and like, you know, who we could work with and how we could, because ultimately, like the initial artwork for that album was good. But there were some things that we didn't want that ultimately ended up in the artwork. And there were some things that we were kind of missing that we felt like should have been there. So the idea of bringing new art to that release, I know to me was very appealing initially. And I will be honest, and I will say that I had very little part in the involvement of the new artwork for it, but holy fucking shit. I couldn't have dreamed up a better layout. I am floored by the artwork for the new release.
And I'm it's still not out yet, apparently, but you know, there's among people I know, it's pretty hotly looked forward to, you know, because it is something that we didn't really get to have back then. I mean, it was released it was released on vinyl, was it not, initially?
No, we never really had any proper vinyl release.
Okay.
Everything was CD for the most part. We did a split 7-inch with Garrison.
Yeah.
Outside of that, we had no vinyl release at all.
I really didn't think so, because I if you look behind me, I have thousands of records.
Yeah.
I have everything you ever released, and it's all on CD. So
I always wanted vinyl. I mean, I grew up on vinyl through my dad, and I still to this day. I mean, I don't have as extensive a collection as you do, but I probably have, I would say realistically, 350, 400 records.
Yeah.
Vinyl to me is the most, if you really fucking care about music and you care about listening to it on the day to day, there is nothing that compares to listening to a record, a real record on vinyl. But anyways, not to go off topic and down that road, but Chuck, I feel like there's some you can say here.
I remember talking to you, Dave, like early to probably 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, I'm going to make something happen where we release shit on vinyl. I was like, yeah, okay. And
I think wanted it so bad.
Yeah. So we were going to try to do it ourselves, or Dave was going to do it himself. So it just happened to line up with what Casey was going to try to do. And when Casey would talk to me about reissuing stuff, I thought he was talking about the Iodine releases. Like, I thought he wanted to do Shape of Calling and or Everything You Thought You Knew, which would have been cool. I would have liked it. We could use some fun shit that we cooked up for it back, 22 years ago, and it could be like a really retrospective thing. That's what we were kind of kicking around in the beginning, like, oh, some retrospective, like I'll get a bunch of pictures, we'll make it this fun sort of party thing. So when he was like, oh, I want it to be the self-titled, I was like, okay, that's even better. That's cool. And then, then we started talking sort of creatively and cooking stuff up. Like, the idea of making a new title for it seemed very foreign to me and very strange. I was just like, but what do you mean? Like, I don't understand what we're doing. And it's just me. I don't and he had to be like, yeah, from a marketing standpoint, like I gotta say it's a thing. Like, I can't just say it's self-titled. People are going to think of that other record and whatever. And I go, oh, okay, I kind of get it. So once I was able to wrap my head around that, and my brain works in a way that I don't feel like is very marketable. So I feel like all the things I was kicking around, I feel like it was like a year of like pitching shit to Casey. And like, I was making album covers myself, and me and Colin, who played bass in the last iteration, he's like an amazing artist. So we were like, I was like, let's do it like this, and fucking this, that, and the other thing. And it was always, I think Casey was going to Dave and be like, I don't know, dude, this dude's out of his mind. And I had to finally just be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, this is the shit that would make me happy, but I understand it's not going to make everybody happy. So you do. I was kind of towards the end, just like, you do whatever you want to do. And then he started sending me artists and what do you think of this guy? And I would look at different Instagrams or whatever. And then he had found Tom, and he sent Tom to me and was
so
like,
good.
this dude really suits the sort of filthy sort of vibe of that record and who we were as people and stuff. So once I sort of saw the excuse me, the bed picture and all that, I was like, okay, yeah, fuck yeah. And that's really the impetus of, then I started thinking about the themes of the record and stuff. And then that's where One Night Stay came from, which I just thought was great. So once we sort of started matching that shit up, I got really fired up and excited about it. And I think with vinyl, because it's displayed behind you, like it's part of, it's just like, it's almost decoration. It's we're going back to like, you want to know who the fuck I am? Check these walls, baby.
Also,
and the thing is, you could grab it and it's a part. It's like it's real. You're not, not to cut you off, Dave, but like I picked this up and it's like, this is an actual thing that exists in reality. Like Pinhead Gunpowder, they were really a band, and I could really open this and I could read the liner notes and I could see who they were friends with and what other bit. Like that's how I found bands.
Dude, years
ago, 35
for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
Listen, we could do a podcast on that, and I could talk to you for fucking 25 hours about it. And I'm not going to do that because I am that guy, and I will do that. But I just want to say quickly. Chuck maybe he was going to get there and maybe I'm cutting him off, but Chuck wrote basically all the lyrics to this album and the themes and the song titles and the structure and the idea of what we were saying on this album is truly Chuck, or his story in this moment, right? In this moment in time. And the thing that a lot of people don't know is that we ended up sequencing the songs in a direction or in a way that didn't line up with the story per se. There were just, I don't want to make a big deal about it. Like the label was like, okay, well, I'd really like this song to be in the first 3 songs. And we were like, okay, well, in theory, that's maybe not exactly how we want it to go, but whatever. Yeah. Long story short, this new release has the sequencing of the album that fits with the actual story and the lyrics of what Chuck wrote. And if you actually look at our original release of this album, the lyrics are written out in a way that fits the sequence. But they don't fit the song sequence of the initial CD release. Now we have it sequenced in this way that the story is written and the way that the whole thing is meant to be, the whole piece of art is meant to be. So not only do we have new artwork, but to me, the right artwork. And again, not knocking the original artwork, but just like the perfect honed in after years of knowing what it's about artwork and the right sequence. And then honestly, all fucking props to Casey because he really spared no expense in helping us recreate this release. We remastered it and we went, we had initially Alan Douches did the initial mastering and he did the remastering for us. But the beautiful thing is he was like, what do these guys want? What are they missing? What did I miss? What do they need brought up? Like whatever. And we gave notes and notes and notes, and he found it all, pulled it out, brought it up, sorted it out. And I mean, for me personally, and I know like Chuck and I remember texting him the night we got like the final like master from Alan. I remember like Bluetooth headphones on in my kitchen. I was fucking like, I was like full on like air guitaring fucking like my whole apartment up. Cause I was like, fuck, this is so good. And it's like when you finally have this thing that you've cared about for so long and you put so much into and it all just comes together in a way you never thought it could or would come. I guess not could, but would come together. I was just, and I still am blown away by the fact that we get this opportunity. So I'm just, yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry I went on a diatribe there, but I just felt like I needed to get that out.
I guess what I really wanted to know from there is there going to be more? Like, are the Iodine records going to get reissued, remastered, retouched?
I honestly doubt it. I think that's been part of the plan, but it's been like a contingent thing. You know what I mean? Seeing how this one goes, you know, Casey has been like, you know, the thing about Casey is he does these things because he's passionate about it, but it very quickly snowballs, and he gets he'll fucking Frosty the Snowman the shit out of stuff. He loves a snowball. He'll wrap himself up in the snowball. So I think it was like, let's do this as a passion project. We put this out. If we sell them, we just take that money and I'll do the next one. And then that one sells, whatever. And I just don't see that happening, to be honest with you. And I probably shouldn't say that, but I just kind of don't. And I think, again, doing the Iodine releases, it would have been a fun, like, retrospective thing. Mm-hmm. And that would have been a different vibe where, like, we would have went with, you know, more fun sort of artwork and that kind of stuff. It would be fun to do, you know, I like the Rise EP a lot. It'd be fun to do something with that and maybe some unreleased stuff. Like, that was stuff we were talking about. But I think Iodine, at least, it's taken such a direction that he wasn't sort of counting on, that I think he's better, you know, there's better things out there for him than, I mean, he loves us and we love him, and our stories have always been intertwined. But I think, you know, he's just on the bigger potatoes than
ultimately, if we were willing to, like, be a band and play shows and work towards a new album, would Casey want to champion that and be a part of it? I 100% wholeheartedly believe he would be like, fuck yeah, whatever, let's do the thing. That's just not our reality, right? Like, the support, I guess, ultimately is the point, right? Casey has always been overly supportive of us. I don't know if every band on Iodine feels that way. I would like to think that they definitely feel super supported, because I just know Casey and his work ethic. But I don't know. There's always been a special relationship that we've had with him, and initially from Chuck and him. Where did you guys have your first dinner? Was it an Applebee's?
Pizzeria Uno.
Uno. Sorry, my bad. Damn it.
And I picked up the check. What the fuck? Fucking 19. You took me out, dude. I'm picking up the check.
Right? What the fuck?
Paying for your deep dish, bro? Like, get the fuck out of here.
Seriously.
I'm still salty about that. I picked up the check.
As you should be.
Yeah, the Pizzeria Uno.
No, but he just, you know, he's just such a solid human. And I know he loves us, and I know he loves our music, and I know he cares so deeply about what we've done together and what, you know, whatever project we're working on. So I know he'll always support us, and I know he'll, you know, I know deep down he's like, come on, why don't you play a show? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And the reality is again, you know, like we talked about before, I don't want to put any pressure on, let alone myself, any of these other guys. Again, ultimately, if I'm just being honest, if I had my dream, I would want to just be in a room with them. Yeah. I just want to be together. I want to fuck around, laugh with each other. If music comes out of it and we create something, great. If we just fuck around and just enjoy each other's company, that is the most important thing in the world to me, is human connection with the people that I love. So that'll always be it. And I know that is also, I guess my point is, that is Casey's deal too, is like, I love you guys. I support you. I want to do this because I know how much it meant to me, and I know how much it means to you. So let's put this out on vinyl, and then let's just see where it goes from there. And again, going back to those initial conversations about it, I never ever thought that we would have new artwork. I never ever thought we'd have remastering. I never ever thought that it would be as fucking cool as it's turned out to be. So I feel genuinely lucky and thankful and gracious to Casey that he put as much effort into it as he did, while he's working with all these other bands that he's re-releasing and all these brand new bands that he's signing. So, the fact that he's giving us the time and effort and care when we're not an active band means the world.
Well, I mean, you do have a legacy, though. So, I mean, there is kind of a value added there as well. So, I mean, for you, Chuck, to say that maybe there won't be an interest or it won't sell through the way you would hope, I kind of don't see that the same way you do, because I'm coming from a fan perspective. So I'm thinking, all right, this is going to go off. It's going to be big. So I'm hoping it happens the way I'm foreseeing it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, that's the thing. You try not to, you try not to get over excited. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, maybe some people will buy it. That'll be cool. And then you eventually do, once things start coming together and it sounds the way you want it to. And I got all these ideas that I want to do. We were going to do this limited thing where it comes with this almost little, not like a magazine, but I full on wrote like a new version of the story of the records, because for me, it was like, yeah, I want it to be able to speak to the 20-year-olds that maybe are going to pick it up, but I also want it to age with the 42-year-olds too, and have this like cool spin on it. So, our mind was racing with all the cool stuff that we're going to do. And of course, in my head, I start going like, oh, people might freak the fuck out for this. Like, this might be our time, baby, and it just doesn't feel, it just didn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it. Obviously, it's been delayed and the record's not out, but
sure.
Let's also just remember that we live in a time where what does it take to get people to freak the fuck out, right? Like,
oh God, who knows? I have no idea.
Exactly. Like, it's almost virtually impossible, because everybody's sucked into this fucked up world, and we're all like online looking at each other in screens like we are today. And I don't know, man. Like, I just, I don't want to be the old guy saying like, hey, things were better when we were younger, but they were, fuck it. Like, it was more tangible and real. And like, I don't know. It just didn't feel so like, who gives a fuck? It felt more like, if we're not enjoying this moment, then the world is ending. If we're not like living for now, then what the fuck are we doing? Like, I don't know. I don't want to go down and be that guy now. But
that ties into my. I only have one real question that I ever have pre-prepared for any.
There's only one, and we've been talking for what, an hour and a half?
Yes, but there's only one thing I have pre-prepared always, and I ask every guest this, and it ties into that in a kind of sideways sort of way. I always ask everyone what terrifies them on an existential level. So I pose this to you because A, that's what I ask everyone, and B, it gives me an insight into the psyches of the people I speak to, because what we fear is kind of who we are. So I present that to you.
You want to go first?
I'll go first. Yeah, I think what I've always been afraid of on an existential level, and that it's gotten maybe better over the years, but it certainly was the driving force for all the creative work that I did, is that this is a blip that isn't gonna fucking matter, and what I do is gonna have no sort of ripples. Why should I even fucking try? Why should I even care? Why can I not sleep at night? Why am I so worried about perfect words, perfect order? Why do I want to connect with people on like this deeper level when they won't even know who the fuck I am, all that kind of shit. I think having kids has loosened that up a little bit, where my legacy has become concrete and tangible, and the best way that I can put it in the way that I've like evolved as a person is I used to want to be part of the biggest story, even if you don't care about the main character. And the shift in my thinking was like, no, I want to be a character that people care about in a small fucking story. That became more important, because if I wanted to be this big part of a big story, but I didn't give a shit about myself. Like, I didn't care about myself, so I wasn't worried if people cared about me, that kind of stuff. So now it's like I got a literal small little world where my work is right down the street. It feels meaningful. I look at my kids, that feels meaningful. My family, people that I love, and if the people that I love me and I'm kind to them and do all that kind of stuff, then that's the ripple, and that's the shit that is gonna ripple.
Yeah.
So to now, my new greatest fear, I guess, is that can I love enough? Am I caring enough? Am I loving enough? Am I letting bullshit get in the way again of, like, blocking those sort of ducts where I just, like, I want to be such a loving, caring person to the people that I love and care about, and why am I still getting in my own way, and what the fuck is my problem? What the fuck is my problem, I guess, is my biggest existential fear. David.
Yeah. Oh shit. Well, as you know, I am a sucker for, do you care enough about me? Am I good enough? Do you love me enough? Yada, yada, yada. I've lived a lot of my life trying to measure up, and a lot of that for me comes from childhood and being a younger sibling to a older sibling who just brought a lot to the table and was a lot of the focus of life. And I spent a lot of my life just feeling less than, and not really knowing how to navigate that, and how to move on from that, and how to pull myself out of feeling that way. And because I had sort of pegged myself as that person for too long. And I will be honest, I feel like in a lot of ways, through the 6-7 years of our band, from like day one to like the very end, it was probably like 6.5-7 years, from like the moment we were in the basement with a 4-track through making records and recording and touring and whatever, and to being over. It gave me a lot of confidence eventually. It took a while, but I eventually got there in the band, and I feel like a lot of that for me also conveyed to my personal life. It taught me a lot of lessons about who I am as a person, what I want out of life, and just being confident in my ability wherever I'm at in life, knowing that it's not perfect, knowing that it's always a work in progress, knowing that it's going to improve if I put the work in. And that was like such a monumental thing. You're in your early 20s, mid 20s, like we don't know what the fuck we're doing, right? But I feel like I learned so much through our band about how to just be, how to talk to people, how to be confident, how to fake it till you make it at times. Because like there were times in some of our recordings where I know I wasn't confident, but I know I got good vocal takes. And I think I was thinking that I was somebody else in those moments. And I mean, really, and to be fair, it wasn't until like our last couple recordings where I was confident being me, being good at singing. Before it was like, I'm going to pretend I'm so-and-so and I'm going to kill this take, right? It wasn't until way later that I was like, no, I'm just going to kill this take. So that, it was huge growth for me. And then, you know, when our band initially ended, I'm not going to go like deep into that situation, but it was it was a very tough moment for me, for a multitude of reasons. And it took me quite a while to kind of move past that. But once I did, and I realized, you know, that I still had this, like, a lot of life to live, and I was just getting going, really. And looking back on, like, being in the band and what we did and what felt like a blip was really like a huge amount of time. And we created a bunch of art and had all these amazing experiences together and met all these amazing friends. And like, when you really think back on it, it's like, holy shit, that's like a lifetime for most people that we lived in like 5 or 6 years. Like a lifetime of experiences we had in this short, condensed period of time. And I don't know, I just feel super fucking lucky to have lived when to have existed when I existed, and to have been there when we were there. And because I just feel like if it was 10 years later, 10 years earlier, it would not have happened the way that it happened. It just wouldn't have. There was something about that time frame. And I mean, you can talk about the, you know, whatever, pre-streaming, you know, all that shit, like pre-Napster, just before it, like that there was this insatiable need for music and to consume it and to find a way to share it. And the only way to do it was through mixtapes, mix CDs, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
And then when it all shifted to the other side, to whether it starts with Napster, of course, and then you go into YouTube and then streaming services. And now here we are in such a completely different asinine world. I'm so fucking thankful and gracious and happy that I live when I live. I was born when I was born, and we created music when we did, because it would never have been as special as it is, and it was, if we didn't exist in that time. I don't know. That's all I have to say. Oh, fuck. I'm sorry. I'm tired.
No,
I love
listen,
you guys, and I love music, and I just fucking have this like unending river of like love for music. And I know Chuck doesn't give a shit about music anymore, and I love that about him, because not only is he one of my best friends, but I love how real he is and how honest he is. He doesn't fucking care anymore because he has other cares in his life, and that's what matters to him. But I still care so much about music, and it still matters so much to me. And I love finding new music, and I love sharing it with people. And I think that'll just be who I am forever. And honestly, the last thing I'm going to say, unless you ask me another question, which you probably shouldn't, Chuck one day said something about me, and I won't quote it right, so I'm not even going to try to, but he basically was like, you communicate to people. The best version of your communication to people is through music, is through sending them music, playing them songs. Like, that is how you properly communicate. And it is the truth. And I didn't know that for a long time until he really pointed it out. And I've always thought about that since the moment he did it. And I still do to this day, because I feel like I do communicate to people through music. And it is the best way for me to express who I am and what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. And so the best way I can wrap up my part on this podcast is I feel so fucking lucky to have been a part of Orange Island, to have been with these 4 or 5 other humans through a couple of different bass players that we just loved each other, cared about each other, jived with each other. Just, it made sense. And I will carry that for the rest of my life, and be so thankful that I was able to be there in that moment, in these times, and to be along for the ride with all of these dudes.
I don't think we could end on a better note than that, to be honest with you. I mean,
That's
was
it, man.
kind of perfect. But shit, I'm so looking forward to this. I can't wait to have it in my hands and have it be real in my little corner of reality here.
Dude, same.
And I'd say come on again, but I don't know if we're gonna get anything else. So it's
Well,
kind of,
you know, we'll see.
yeah. Well, I'm hoping so, but this is
Big market tease. Let's find out.
Yeah, let's find. Let all my listeners buy the fucking thing so we could get another episode.
There we go. That's where it's at. Yeah, that's what we're
Listen.
talking about.
Subtle little jab.
Yeah.
I know we all want to play music, so like let's find a way to do it.
Yeah, come on. But I really appreciate you guys coming on. I'll be in touch with you soon because I'm gonna have to get permission to use some music in the body of the podcast because I like to do that.
I'm sure it'll all be denied.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. I got myself into some trouble in the past with that, even after getting permission.
No shit, really?
Yeah. Orange 9mm, they were on East West Records, and
Oh no.
I thought I had permission, and I wasn't whitelisted, and they're Atlantic, so it didn't. I got demonetized.
Oh wow.
Damn, dude, that's fucked up.
Oh well.
Yeah,
That
I
is
know, but still.
That's
But fuck them. Whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you so much. And
Thank you, Peter. Honestly,
Peter, appreciate it. This
yeah.
is so fun.
yes, this was a good time. And
I've been telling Chuck, I was like, we keep doing separate podcasts. We need to do it together.
yeah, right.
So this was great. I'm so glad we finally got to do this.
I know, and I wanted to tell you too. When the ball got dropped in September on my end, there was a really nasty car wreck in the family, so that's why I missed you guys.
Dude,
so
no,
Not even necessary, buddy. Not even necessary.
Yeah.
Totally all good.
But,
I hope everything's okay. But
it is.
honestly,
It is.
Yeah,
it's. I got you. I mean, I understand. Yeah. We don't even need to go down that road.
Awesome.
Totally, we got you.
Awesome. Well, guys, you get a good night's sleep. I'm sure going to because I'm shot too. But thank you so much. And
This was super fun. Thank you.
Peter, thank you, buddy.
have a good night.
All right,
Thanks,
man.
you too. David, love you.
Love you, babe.
Bye, brother.
And there you have it, folks. The love between band members. The love between band members and fan. The connection therein. This beautiful record. Iodine Records has seen fit to re-release it, to put it back into the world, to give it the loving remix, remaster treatment, the vinyl reissue that it has been given. It's totally worth it. It's worth your money. It's worth your time. One Night Stay is one of those records that will always stand out, in my collection, in the story of my life as being one of those all-time greats. Quicksand Slip, Sick of It All, Blood, Sweat, No Tears, Jimmy World Clarity, Orange 9mm, Driver Not Included. There's so many Hallmark records. Into Another's first record, the self-titled. But then again, it's kind of like all of Into Another's records. And it's the same thing with Orange Island. Everything they did stood out as being something, greater than the sum of its parts. I hope you feel the same way. I hope you love this record. I hope you love this interview, this discussion, and these two wonderful gentlemen. That being said, I've been Peter. They've been Dave and Chuck. You've been beautiful. And this has been The Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast. Love and blessings to all of you. Can't wait to talk to you all again. Have a great night, everybody.